Welcome back to another awesome year of Count on Us. I am Coach Wyndham here to help you gear up for math. This show is a great resource for supporting students, teachers, and community members with our county math program. We have something for everyone. We have special segments just for students. We have special segments just for parents. We even have lessons that help you learn how to use problem-solving strategies to solve a variety of math problems. Let's get started.
4, 3, 2, 1.
My name is Coach Lewis, and I will be assisting you with becoming a successful mathematician. Today we will be looking at Standard 6 EE6. By the end of our lesson, you will be able to say, I can write expressions with variables to solve real-world problems. Now let's get started. Today we are going to use the 3-read protocol to make sense of our word problem. We're going to read the word problem 3 times because it is important for you to understand what the problem is about before answering the questions. Let's begin with the first read. The first read focuses on comprehension of the context. I am going to read the problem, and what I want you to listen for is, what is this situation about? A deli sells small, medium, and large box lunches. Each can of soda costs $1, and each bag of chips costs $1. Each sandwich costs S dollars. Some customers buy items separately. Shonda buys 6 sandwiches and 2 sodas. Her total cost is 6S plus 2. Angel buys 6 small box lunches. These box lunches include 1 sandwich, 1 soda, and 1 bag of chips. Her total cost is 6 times the quantity of S plus 2. Diamond buys 3 medium box lunches. These box lunches do not include soda. Her total cost is 3 times the quantity of 2S plus 3. Let's look at our first question. What is this situation about? You said it, different size box lunches and total cost of items included. The second read focuses on understanding the mathematics. I will perform read 2, and I want you to listen for important information. A deli sells small, medium, and large box lunches. Each can of soda costs $1, and each bag of chips costs $1. Each sandwich costs S dollars. Some customers buy items separately. Shonda buys 6 sandwiches and 2 sodas. Her total cost is 6S plus 2. Angel buys 6 small box lunches. These box lunches include 1 sandwich, 1 soda, and 1 bag of chips. Her total cost is 6 times the quantity of S plus 2. Diamond buys 3 medium box lunches. These box lunches do not include soda. Her total cost is 3 times the quantity of 2S plus 3. Now let's look at our second question. What are the quantities in this situation? When we're looking at quantities, we're talking about numbers and their units. Yes, there are a lot of quantities in this particular situation. We have $1 for soda. We have 6 small lunches, $1 for chips, 1 sandwich, 6 sandwiches, 1 soda, 2 sodas, 1 bag of chips, 6 S plus 2, 6 times the quantity of S plus 2. We have 3 medium lunches and 3 times the quantity of 2S plus 3. Yes, that was a lot of quantities. All right, let's look at the third read. Now we're going to read the problem one more time. The third read is to think about all the possible questions we could ask about this situation. This time, I'm going to let you read the problem by yourself. Good job. Now let's look at our last question. What are all the possible mathematical questions we could ask of this situation? Of course, there are several questions that we can ask. We'll just concentrate on a few of them. How much does 1 sandwich cost? How many bags of chips are in Diamond's lunch? Who buys the most items for lunch? Those are just a few questions. Now that we have used the 3-read protocol to assist with understanding the problem, let's look at Part A. Part A reads, how many sandwiches and how many bags of chips are in each medium box lunch that Diamond buys? If sandwiches cost $7.75, what is Diamond's total cost? Let's go back to the problem and see what Diamond purchased. Diamond buys 3 medium box lunches, and her total cost is 3 times the quantity of 2S plus 3. The box lunches do not include soda. That's very important. What does the expression 3 times the quantity of 2S plus 3 mean? You said it. It means 3 groups of 2S plus 3. And 1 group, that means that there are 2 sandwiches and 3 bags of chips. So in 1 medium box lunch, 2 sandwiches and 3 bags of chips are included. Now we can use this information to help determine Diamond's total cost. If we look at this illustration, we remember that Diamond purchased 3 medium box lunches. So now we're looking at how many items are in the 3 medium box lunches total. Our illustration shows us that there are 6 sandwiches and 9 bags of chips. There's another way we can determine that there are 6 sandwiches and 9 bags of chips included in the 3 medium box lunches. We could use the distributive property. Using the distributive property, we will multiply 3 and 2s plus 3 times 3. 3 times 2s is 6s, and 3 times 3 is 9. Again, this shows that there are 6 sandwiches and 9 bags of chips. Now we need to find the total cost. In Part A, it says if sandwiches cost $7.75, what is Diamond's total cost? Well, remember, we have 6 sandwiches and we have 9 bags of chips. Also in the problem, it tells us that each bag of chips costs $1. So now let's determine the total cost. Remember, included in the 3 medium box lunches, there's 6 sandwiches and 9 bags of chips. 1 sandwich costs $7.75. To find the total amount for the 6 sandwiches, we multiply $7.75 and 6. And we get $46.50. So for 6 sandwiches, the cost is $46.50. Now we need to look at the bag of chips. 1 bag of chips costs $1. There are 9 bags of chips included in the 3 medium box lunches, So we multiply 9 and 1 to get $9. To find the total cost, we have to add the price for the sandwiches and the chips. So that's $46.50 plus $9 to get $55.50. So Diamond's total cost is $55.50. Let's review what we learned today. Our goal was I can write expressions with variables to solve real-world problems. How did we accomplish this? You said it. We used the 3-READ protocol to make sense of a problem dealing with small, medium, and large lunch boxes. We then used expressions that represented the total cost of the lunch boxes to answer some questions. You did it! Congratulations! You are great! That's our show today for 6th grade. 7th grade will be coming up next, so stay tuned and remember, you can count on us.
Hi 7th graders, this is Coach Hubbard, and today we're in the ocean. We're going to explore the problem submarine depth. By the end of today, you should be able to determine whether a graph is proportional or not, using what you know about proportionality when it comes to a graph and how to examine values in a table to determine proportionality. Are you ready to dive into the mathematics? All right, let's begin. The table shows a relationship between the depth of my submarine and the time since I started the dive. Do you think the relationship is proportional in the table or not? Let's look at those values of the table in depth. Let's start by plotting the values from the table on the coordinate plane. Are you ready? You know, I looked at the graph and I realized the y-axis increases every 40 meters. So we're going to have to use estimation to plot the values from the table to the graph. I recorded my first dive as a depth of 100 meters per 2 minutes. My second dive, we traveled 180 meters per 4 minutes. The depth of my dive here was 260 meters per 6 minutes. Finally, we had a depth of 340 meters per 8 minutes on my last dive.
Here's my graph I've been using to track my gas usage.
I think I remember there's a test.
Do you think the graph represents a proportional relationship between the distance and gas usage?
Line, but I'm not sure. Let's see.
I really don't know.
We can think about that test.
Well,
I think it's a straight line.
I think we need to look at the map. Let's zoom in on the graph.
Do the points on the graph
if the points on a straight line go through the origin,
0, 0. I'll give you a minute to
the
think
graph
about it.
Represents a proportional relationship.
Okay, let me draw my line.
That's one way to check for proportionality. But let's conduct one more check just to make sure there's a proportional relationship between the distance and gas usage. Now let's check the points on the graph.
You know what? I think there's something
Grab
else
some
we
scratch
can
paper.
use to check for proportionality.
We're going to write down the coordinates for
Let's
each
see if
point
we can
from
use
the
the
graph.
values in the table to determine if the graph is
Are
proportional
you ready?
or not.
All right.
I recognized the
Let's
pattern when I
begin.
first saw that table.
My car
Let's
travels
see if the values
20
in the
miles
table are
on
in
1
equal
gallon
ratios.
of gas, 40 miles on 2 gallons of gas,
I told you I
and
saw a
60
pattern.
miles on 3 gallons of gas. Remember, when x is 1 and y
They
is
look equivalent.
20,
I think
this
they're
is your
equivalent,
constant of
but I think I
proportionality,
better double
k.
check.
If we look at
Let's
the
calculate
unit
the
rate,
value
we're
of the
looking at
ratio.
the amount of
100
gas
meters
used
every
compared
2
to the
minutes.
Distance driven in miles.
Into 2 equal groups. My unit rate is 50 meters.
So we've
per
just
minute.
found out that I can drive 20 miles per
ratio.
gallon. So let's check the other ratios for proportionality.
4 minutes. So I'm going to
Create a
divide
table of values on your
180
paper
meters
using
into
the
4 equal
coordinate
groups.
pairs. Do you see a pattern?
That unit rate is 45 meters per minute. I better move on to that third ratio. 260
Now divide the
meters
number of
per
miles
6
by the
minutes.
gallons of gas in the
I'm
table.
going to divide 260
What's the value
meters
of the
into
second and
6
third
equal
ratios?
groups. Uh-oh.
We know the first
My
ratio
unit rate
is 20
is
miles per gallon.
43 and 33
Go ahead
hundredths
I'll give
of
you
a
time to
meter
try.
per minute.
on your own.
For my last
You're
ratio,
right.
340
The
meters
second ratio on the table,
per
40
8 minutes.
miles divided by
I'm
2
going to divide
gallons,
340
equals 20
meters
miles per gallon.
into 8 equal groups.
The third
My
ratio,
unit rate is
60 miles divided by
42.5
3
meters per
gallons
minute.
of gas, is equivalent to 20 miles per gallon.
I thought
We
those
have
unit rates were
equivalent
gonna be the same.
ratios, so we can say the graph represents a proportional relationship. Remember at the beginning of the lesson,
Based on the
I was at the gas
calculations,
station
the values from the
and I
table
pumped
are
5.5 gallons of
equivalent.
gas into my gas tank.
So that means the
Now
graph
I
is
need to
not
figure out
proportional.
how far can I travel in my car on 5.5 gallons of gas.
Take a look at those values. Do you agree with me?
I think I'm going to use the graph.
Remember,
First,
you have to
I need to
check
figure out the
value
location of
of
5.5
each ratio
miles on the
and
x-axis.
determine the unit rate.
I'm going to use estimation.
If
So
the
I
ratios
looked
are not equivalent,
at the graph
the graph
and I
is
found the
not
location of
proportional.
5 gallons of gas and 6 gallons of gas. And halfway,
Let's
I
use the
drew
rule of
a
4
vertical
to recap
line.
today's lesson.
Let's see what location on the y-axis
Analyze the
corresponds with 5.5
and
gallons
found
of
the
gas
straight line
on the x-axis.
formed by the points on the graph did not go through the
5.5,
0.
110.
We looked at the
So
table
my car
and we
travels
found it looks
110
like
miles
proportional
on
relationship.
5.5 gallons of gas.
I see a pattern.
Let's double check the two ratios for
But when we
proportionality.
took the
I'm going to
values
find the
from
quotient
table
of 20 divided by 1
and wrote them
and
as
see if it's
ratios
equivalent
find
to
that unit
110 divided by
rate.
5.5.
We found those unit rates were not the same.
They're equal. Those ratios
So we
are
wrote up our
equivalent.
explanation. and
To review
decided
today's
the
lesson,
relation
I've
between
created a
time and
proportional
depth
checklist.
is not
So let's get
proportional
started.
on the graph, nor is it
Number
proportional
1,
on the table.
always check to see if the graph is a straight line
And we
that
use
passes through the
evidence
origin
from the
0,
graph
0.
and our
Number 2,
calculations from the table
identify the coordinates
to
for each
justify
point
our
on the graph.
method. Well, that's it for 7th
Number
grade today.
3,
The next segment
divide
will
the
be
y
for 8th grade
coordinate
students.
by the x
See you next
coordinate.
time.
Our
to
lesson
check for
today
equivalent
addresses
ratios.
concepts in geometry. So let's get started. The
That's
literacy
it for
strategy
7th
that I
grade
want to
today.
highlight for today
The
is
next
the
segment
three
will be for 8th grade
We use
students.
the 3 read
See you next
strategy
time.
to make sense of problems. This strategy is helpful when you have a problem that you need to revisit more than once to make sense of the problem and solve it. Each read requires the students to narrow their focus on specific parts of the problem. During the first read, you have to unlock the prompt by underlining the question and any directions or important information. In the second read, you have to determine what the problem is asking you to do. And you have to be able to state what you should do first and be able to justify. For the last read, you will determine what mathematics is needed to solve this problem, and you should be able to explain. Are you ready to give it a go? In this problem, we are looking at angle relationships of parallel lines cut by transversals. We will begin with read 1. We have to unlock the prompt by underlining the question and any directions or important information. I want to make sure that I pay close attention to questions that I need to answer and important information that will help me answer each question. Here, I have underlined the words parallel and perpendicular because these words will help me determine the values of specific angles. I also underlined the questions and directions. Let's keep going. After unlocking the prompt, you can determine what you need to do from the question or direction words. In this case, we have what, justify, and include. These words tell me that I have to answer a question and follow certain directions. I see there are 3 things that I need to do. I need to find the measure of angle 3. Then I need to find the measure of angle 4. Lastly, I must justify the measure of angle 4 in 2 ways using my knowledge of angle relationships. Now that we know what we need to do, let's keep going. We have one more read. In read 3, we have to determine what mathematics is needed to solve this problem. We also need to use our knowledge of angle relationships of parallel lines cut by transversals in order to calculate the measure of angle 3 and angle 4. Now it's time to analyze the lines. Angle 1 is vertical to the 42-degree angle. So that means the measure of angle 1 is 42 degrees because vertical angles are congruent. Also, angle 1 and angle 3 are corresponding angles of the parallel lines. Corresponding angles are congruent. So that means the measure of angle 3 is also 42 degrees. I see that angle 3 and angle 4 form a right angle because of the small square in the corner on the other side of line Q. These are considered to be complementary angles. If you subtract the measure of angle 3 from 90 degrees, you will get the measure of angle 4, 48 degrees. Next, I see that angle 4 completes a triangle. This is another way to justify the measure of angle 4 by subtracting the other angles from 180 degrees. The sum of the interior angles of a triangle measures 180 degrees. So oftentimes you can find missing angles by subtracting the sum of the given angles. In this case, we have 90 degrees and 42 degrees, and so we are looking for angle 4. Now that we have completed our 3 reads, we can answer the questions. For part A, what is the measure of angle 3? The measure of angle 3 is 42 degrees. We were able to use our 3 reads to help us determine that by using our knowledge of angle relationships. For part B, justify 2 ways that you know the measure of angle 4. Include your knowledge of angle relationships. The measure of angle 4 is 48 degrees because angle 4 completes the triangle. Also, angle 4 is complementary to the measure of angle 3, forming a 90-degree angle. Let's review. Were we able to find the measure of angle 3? Yes, we were. Did we use our knowledge of angle relationships to justify the measure of angle 4 in 2 ways? Yes, we did. I think we're ready to try one more. We are going to extend our thinking just a little more with a bonus question. Part C. What is the measure of angle 2? Part D. Justify that you know the measure of angle 2. Include your knowledge of angle relationships. If we use the information that we know, we can find the measure of angle 2. First, I see that angle 2 is right next to the 42-degree angle. When angles are adjacent to each other on the same line, they are said to be supplementary. Supplementary angles have a sum of 180 degrees. In order to find the measure of angle 2, I would need to subtract 42 degrees from 180 degrees. Let's do some math. 180 minus 42 equals 138. So I could say that the measure of angle 2 is 138 degrees. D. I must justify that I know the measure of angle 2. As I stated earlier, angle 2 is supplementary to the 42-degree angle. Therefore, the difference between 180 and 42 is 138 degrees. Let's see our explanation. The measure of angle 2 is 138 degrees. Angle 2 is supplementary to the 42-degree angle because they are adjacent to each other on the same line. Supplementary angles have a sum of 180 degrees. Wow, that was great. Let's review. Were we able to find the measure of angle 2? Yes, we were. Did we use our knowledge of angle relationships to justify the measure of angle 2? Yes, we did. Great work. In closing, we learned that you can use the 3-read strategy to make sense of a problem and solve it. Using the 3-read method really helps us to focus on the important information and identify the steps needed to answer the question. I hope this was helpful for you too. Well, 8th grade, that's our show for today. We hope to see you back next week. Remember, you can always count on us.
Welcome back to another Count on Us with Partnering with Parents. I'm Coach Brenner, and today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some things you can do at home to make sure that your students are prepared, whether they are continuing at home distance learning or if they're beginning to start in-person learning in the classroom. Some of these things just to make it easier on you as the parent when these changes are taking place, and also these changes for students since it's been almost a year or over a year since students have been back in the buildings. So throughout this episode, we're going to be talking about some of these different things that you can do at home to make sure that your child is as ready and prepared as possible when they go back in the buildings or if they're continuing with distance learning at home. The resources that all students have, whether they're at home or they are inside the classroom, and they've been using this year as well, are some different resources through Clever. Now, in order for your child to sign in through Clever, they just have to sign in with their ID and their password, just as they would log on to their Chromebook or their email. Just as your students have been using possibly anything from Google Classroom this year or to anything else that your child's teacher has asked them to sign on to. So in Clever, there's a bunch of different resources that are paid for by the county. One of them is Dreambox. Hopefully, if your schools have them and have distributed all the passwords and IDs, your children have been getting onto Dreambox. Dreambox is something that helps your child with on-grade level math standards to make sure they're staying where they need to within their own grade level. It also is challenging, and it's kind of just fun and some games. There's some other different apps down here. We know our Big Ideas that connects to some different textbooks. We're not necessarily using that right now, but for the older students that are those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that have Big Ideas Learning, they can use that. Now, to K through 5, they're in Envision, so don't worry too much about that. IXL, that's another site that your students can practice different math problems. It's connected to standards as well. And these are just some things that your students can do at home. Now, one of the main things that students have been using this year in K through 5 for their online resources and tools is Braining Camp. Okay, and we're going to take a look at Braining Camp just to show you some of the different online tools that your students can use when solving math problems. Braining Camp is one of the apps that has been embedded into most of the activities that your students have been doing online this school year during distance learning. It's something that's going to be embedded in the activities and tasks that your students are doing the rest of the school year as well. Now, K through 2, we know that the majorities these are still going to be useful to them, and we know 3 through 5, some of the other ones such as Algebra Tiles, Coordinate Board, but these are all different resources for students to use. Now, one of the main things to build that fluency and understanding for students is using base 10 blocks. So we'll just take a look at it. We'll click on it. With the base 10 blocks, say students are adding a 3-digit number. Let's say the number is going to be 243 plus 325. We can put that text right there, and we know that that is something that they're adding. We literally can make 243 1 2 3 4, and then here, if we wanted to do 325 down here, we can move these down. And the cool thing with this is really giving your students an opportunity to kind of just check their work, because down here at the bottom, it'll tell the total. Now, if they click that I, it'll take it away. But if they really want to just check to see if they did their work right, say they're doing their work in a notebook, or they're doing their work in Pear Deck, this is just an option for them to come and check their work to make sure that it is correct. So this is how, and there's a lot of different ways that they can use this. There's decimals. So those 4th and 5th graders with tenths and hundredths, they can use that as well. So this is one of those concrete models that really help support student understanding in terms of math. Now, back here, for the younger students, we have the tiles, there's Cuisenaire rods, geoboards, hundreds board. There's just a lot of different things that students can use in order to help support their learning. So as a parent, check some of these out. Ask your students to show them, your child to show you how to utilize these so that you can get familiar with them as well. And if you have a little bit of time, you can log in through Clever with your student ID, your student's ID, and you can actually go through and check some of these out. So one of the organizational strategies that we've been working with students actually over the last couple years is the 3-read protocol. So it's important for you as a parent to understand how your child should be using this when they're solving math word problems. This is an organizational tool for students to kind of just get the problem started. So in a 3-read protocol, if you hear a teacher talking about this or your child mentioning this, this is how it's set up. So with a 3-read, the first read, students reading the problem. So what's going on in the actual problem? So they're just reading the problem as it is. The second read, what are the quantities? So what are the units? So they start pulling the units out of that particular problem. And then when they read the problem the third time, they actually come up with some math questions they can ask based on the information. Now, when teachers... All right, so let's look at this example. It's titled Books, and we're doing that 3-read. So the first read, we're going to read through the information and break down. So at first, we have Miss Smith's class library has 423 books. 50 books were borrowed by students. Okay, so we know that this is math, and we're doing something. We're going to be either adding on or taking away. So we're reading through to understand the first 2 sentences. Notice there's no question yet. Second, we'll pull out the quantities and the units. The quantities are the numbers. The units are what's connected to those numbers. So the quantity, 423, the units are books. In the second sentence, 50 books, the 50 are the quantities and the books are the units. So third read, we'll read through it and we'll pick possibly a question that we could answer. Miss Smith's class library had 423 books. 50 books were borrowed by students. So a possible question could be, how many books are left if the 50 books are borrowed? So let's see what a possible question could be. How many books were left in the classroom library? So being able to come up with that question allows the students to realize what they might have to do when solving for the problem. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Partnering with Parents. Today, we looked at some of those online resources that your child is using at home or in school. These are some different ways that they're learning how to do math on their computer. This is also some different ways that you can help support them going through some of those online tools, learning how to use the base 10 blocks or color tiles or the geoboards. Those are just some things that you can do. We know you don't have a lot of free time, but in your free time, that your child can show you how to use some of these tools. We also went through a strategy that your child's using in their math classroom, which is the 3-read protocol. In these 3-read protocols, students are breaking down word problems. It's important for students to show their comprehension in terms of what the question's asking them, to grasp the understanding so that when they're solving it, they know exactly what they need to do when getting to that final answer. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We look to see you guys in the future. Partnering with Parents episodes. I'm Coach Brenner. You guys have a great day.
4, 3, 2, 1.